Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center. My name is Mary Jo Williams. I'm the training coordinator slash network marketing coordinator, and anything else you want to add to the title. On behalf of our state director, Ms. Leonore Dotson, I want to welcome you all out to Small Business Week 2013 seminar series. We're in a good position today because we have the one and only Mr. Rich Sadler here to provide some information for you guys. For those of you that are new to the SBDC is a joint venture arrangement between the U.S. Small Business Administration and the University of the Virgin Islands. And as such, what we do is we provide technical assistance. We don't lend any monies, we don't give any grants. Okay? If you want to borrow money, we can help you with the paperwork. If you need grants, well, we're really not the agency to work with you because our mission is to work with for-profit organizations. We can give you a little bit of direction in terms of nonprofit stuff, but for the most part, we're profit-oriented, at least the businesses that we work with. Now, in the back, we have Mr. Steen Stovall. He's the center director for the St. Thomas St. John Service Center. He's relatively new to the island, about 5-6 months now. Wave, Steen.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. We really do appreciate it.
Okay.
Y'all are in for a real treat.
And he will, give a closing remarks at the end. But for those of you, the restrooms are back towards the front of the room. They're on the left-hand side. Towards the front. As you go back towards the front door, they're on the left-hand side, the two blue doors. The doors are unlocked, but you need to latch the thing on the inside when you go in. Smoking is allowed if you go out the front door, down the street, past the big ship, and then you can puff to your heart's content.
Love it.
Okay. The folders are yours. Take notes. If you need additional paper, please raise your hand. Now, for those of you that have come for this morning, I don't know if you registered just for the one seminar for $25, but we've got the special 2 seminars for $45, or all 3 seminars today for $60. Now, that's a bargain compared to whatever you could get in the States, because they would charge you $300, $400, $500 just for one seminar. But Rich Sadler is going to make it worth your while. He's the business growth advisor. He had the #1 talk radio show in Jacksonville, Florida. Actually, it's the #1 talk show in the States, well, in the nation. It just happened to be based in Jacksonville, Florida. He's full of information, and I'm not going to hold you up any more from that. So I'm just going to give him to you so he can rock and roll. Help me welcome Rich Sadler.
Thank you. How's the mic? Oh, there's
Good.
I appreciate it. Well, welcome, folks. We appreciate you being here. Is that a little loud, huh? I don't know if there's going to be adjustment, but that's fine. It'll carry. So, how many of you, by the way, are business owners? Can I see your hands go up? Business owners? Okay. How many would consider yourselves entrepreneurs? Same. Okay. Hopefully, everybody that has a little bit of that in them. And what about sales professionals? How many of you are sales professionals? You're in sales somewhat, right? And I know you are, and you're about to be, right? So that's excellent. Well, what we're going to do today, by the way, I'm going to refer to a couple notes here, but we're going to be keeping it very simple. Not much really advanced stuff. That's going to be for later seminars as well. And that's also where, in this form, it needs to be simplistic, elementary, but I think you're still going to gain a lot of information from it because sometimes keeping things to the fundamentals are the way to go. In fact, we were talking earlier, if you're familiar with UCLA's former coach, John Wooden, most winning college football or basketball coach in history, and he never taught advanced techniques. He never taught those to his players. He strictly stuck to the fundamentals. And that's what we're going to do today, is go over just those fundamentals. The forum for other things beyond that, the advanced stuff, etc. I've got an inner circle that we're putting together right now for the Virgin Islands and a mastermind group, but we'll talk about that a little later. But that's also real fun stuff. This will also be very conversational. So if you've got comments, questions, or whatever, feel free. If I'm on a roll with a point, I'll continue to go, but I won't forget you, and I'll definitely call on you for questions. Is that fair enough? Everybody good with that? Okay. And and by the way, does everybody have their handouts? Right. Everybody's got their hands. Does anybody not have it? Okay. Does everybody have a pen? Because you're going to need that for sure. You're going to be wanting to take notes for sure. The one thing that you want to get out is this sheet right here out of your pack. This is what we're going to go over, and you're going to be filling this out. so you can grab this thing and make sure you got that in front of you, because there's obviously some blank lines on here that we're going to be filling in. Okay, that's to keep you attentive, right? Okay. Also, later on in the presentation, we're hopefully going to be taking a quick break and then breaking up into groups of 2 or 3 at a time, and then we can discuss the things you're going to learn. So as you're taking in this information, it's real important that you make it interactive. In other words, you start thinking, how can that apply in my business or in my sales career? Okay, that's the most important thing here, is because you don't want to just get some information. Statistically, we tend to forget information once we gather it, right? So we don't want that to happen to you. So it's going to be interactive. Definitely think of how you can approach it in your business and what you do, so that later you can talk about that with your buddy that you pair up with. And then when we come back from our break after that, you're going to elect one of you out of the group to present to the whole group as to what you came up with, ideas you've got for your business or your career. Does that all make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Cool. Well, let me see. That's it. Let's get started then. So the topic today's presentation this morning is, of course, the 3 ways, and the only 3 ways to grow any business. Okay. There's only 3 ways, and we're going to get to that. Everybody have their cell phones turned off, by the way? If you could make sure that happens. I have to do it myself over here. So let's briefly cover why you may want to listen to what I have to say, and why these are new and different strategies for multiplying your sales and your profits, okay, in your particular business. So this, by the way, is the place for prosperity, what we're going to talk today about, okay? It's getting rid of those money worries, okay? So, and by the way, you're going to digest so much information that we suggest that you wait 30 minutes before going swimming. Okay, so I'll cover real quick to tell you a little bit about myself briefly. I'm going to do this briefly, but I'll cover quickly 2 of my main mentors. One is a gentleman by the name of Dan Kennedy, and another one is Chet Holmes. Chet Holmes passed away recently, but he had a lot of influence on me. Dan Kennedy, if no one's familiar with Dan Kennedy, he is one of the top copywriters and one of the top business consultants on the planet. As it says here, his techniques have been proven in over 156 different product, service, business categories, etc. He's successfully been used by over 90% of all types of business in America and beyond that, Europe as well. He's influenced over 1 million business owners a year, and he's a very highly respected expert in his field. In fact, most of the internet marketers out there, and marketers period, would tout Dan Kennedy as the one they learned from. I mean, he is the powerhouse, and if you're not familiar with him, go home and Google his name, and you'll see it. And I think there's some info in your pack as well. He's been listed in all the major books. The guy's got like 32 books in print, I believe. Again, I'm not going to bore you with it, but the guy knows his stuff. Okay, and I had a 1-day consulting job with him. This is old information, by the way. 1-day consulting with Dan Kennedy is $16,000. And the majority of his clients, by the way, pay him about $100,000 to do a copywriting campaign, which is pretty impressive, right? But that's not as impressive as the fact that about 82% of them rebook again. So it must work, right? His techniques must work. And a lot of what you're going to learn today, I've got is a merging of the Dan Kennedy techniques, Chet Holmes, and of course my own, because I've been in this business since 1987. There's some of the magazine Dan's been associated with and written up, etc. There's me and Dan in Cleveland. He lives in Cleveland. And then also I've learned a lot from Michael Gerber. Anybody familiar with the book E-Myth? E-Myth? Very powerful book. In fact, Inc. magazine called him the most influential business leader in the last decade, or the last, I forget, but he's a powerful guy. In fact, I've had him on my radio show as well, and I had him call into one of our chapter meetings also. He's quite a character. In fact, Jill learned a tremendous amount from Michael some years back about running a business and not being tied to that business. And then Chet Holmes. Chet Holmes used to work for Charlie Munger. If you know who Charlie Munger is, he is Warren Buffett's partner in Berkshire Hathaway. Chet went to run 6 different divisions of a magazine and some other media that he owned, and he doubled the sales of those businesses 6 years in a row, and which is pretty impressive. You double the sales one time, and then when you double those sales, now you're quadruple, right? And you double those sales, now you're 8 times, now you're 60, et cetera, and so forth. In fact, at one point, Charlie pulled him in the office and said, Chet, I just want to make sure we're not doing anything illegal, immoral, unethical when you're pulling all this off. How are you doing this? And again, some of the techniques you'll learn today, I have learned and been influenced by Chet as well. Okay, so, and in fact, when I went to work for Chet for quite a while, and the way I went to work for Chet, and he's a top name, so you know how you get to a guy like that. I wrote one letter, and he called me, and that's the letter. And it's just, I decided, that's how I went to work for Chet. I decided I was going to do it. And so I wrote him the letter, and in his words, he said, I read your letter, I got your letter, read it, and I had to call you. But that's, copywriting is a very powerful tool for those of you that may not be familiar with my bio, but I think you've got it in your pack, so I won't bore you with all that stuff. Essentially, for our purposes today, the most important point, I guess, is that I got into this business in 1987. We started in the radio business literally in a single wide mobile home in the middle of a cow field. It was a country radio station, which I knew nothing about. I didn't know country. I thought it was all twangy music, if you ask me. All I knew is I just wanted to be in radio. And of course, I very quickly learned how to sell media, advertising, marketing, that kind of thing. It was quite an interesting experience in the beginning. In fact, my first client I ever walked into, he tried to throw me out of his store. I think I was telling Nate this story, and he said the last guy that was in here representing your radio station was a scallywag or something, and I don't want anything to do with you guys, and you can leave now. And he, after three times, I finally started walking out the door until I stopped. It was a hardware store. I stopped and I saw a end cap of Black & Decker tools right there, and I thought, why not? One last attempt to try to get through to this man that I can help him. And I said, Mr. Callahan, do you realize that Black & Decker will pay for 75% of your ad if you run it on my station? And you just got to mention Black & Decker 3 times in the ad? And his face turned and he goes, all right, son, come on back over here. And that started my foray into the marketing and advertising arena. So anyway, so over the years I've represented a lot and sold and marketed a lot of brands, a lot of top brands. You probably recognize some of these brands here. This is a big wheel, so some of them are going to be upside down, but anybody recognize some of these brands, imagine? Right? And then, of course, there's a lot of letters of reference and recommendation and things like that from all past clients, members in our association, because we've had a membership as well, where I taught entrepreneurs and business owners and sales professionals marketing techniques and things like that. There's a whole bunch of them here. I won't bore you with it, but they've been embedded into this thing for a while. And then, of course, I've been training and teaching techniques for, I did it for 14 years, so I guess it's been about 18, 19 years now. And this is some of the topics. In fact, this is similar stuff that I sent to the SBDC, and MJ asked me, what kind of topics do you cover? I sent her a page on the website, and she selected what she thought would be the best topics to go over, and we commiserated on that and collaborated, I should say. And that's, so you've got her to thank for the content of what we're going to cover. By the way, I love this one. Once in a while I like to pop in little funny or interesting little slides. Look at this. This first billboard went in. Down here it says, your move, BMW. And then, of course, BMW got really wise and they said, okay, we'll put another billboard up right down the road, checkmate. See it down there? Wow. It's an Audi billboard. I just thought that was quite clever, whoever came. Simple, right? Simple sometimes is the best. I love it. So, by the way, if you'd love for you to visit us on Facebook and Twitter, we're all over all the social medias, which, by the way, if you're going to hang out for this evening's presentation, that, of course, is the importance of search engine optimization and social media. So which tie together, if you're not familiar. We'll cover it all. By the time you get done with that one tonight, you're going to be very, very well versed at all that and how it works and how it comes together. But also, I'm also doing a radio show here on Radio 1, which if you're familiar with the radio station, it's the powerful AM here. It's one of the most powerful signals around. Is it 50,000 watt, Nate, or is it 100? I forget. You remember?
I think it's 100.
I think it was 100 too. Although it's a little powered down right now because the Wappa thing, electric's real high here, of course. But this show is going to be, like MJ mentioned, I used to do it in the States. It's Business Success Radio. And I think more information about that is in your pack, but I'm going to be doing the same thing here every Wednesday at noon. So if you want to make a note to tune in. The first show is going to be the 3rd, I think, something like that, June 3rd. So please, tune in. I think you're going to like what you hear because we'll be talking about all different types of topics. Don't take a lot of calls typically, but I may do that as well. And then of course I'll probably occasionally have guests on as well, featured guests of some of the big wigs around in the marketing and that business world, that type of thing. So about all kinds of different topics. And then of course I'll also run something we just came out with recently, is TripAdvisor Genius, which we manage, mend, and defend your TripAdvisor reputation and profile. So if you know anybody that's in that arena, that their lifeblood of their business is off TripAdvisor, then get in touch. By the way, if you, in your business or in your sales career, if you're overworked or overstaffed, and that's sometimes, I know MJ's identifying with it right away. She immediately, yeah, that's been her for the past 3 weeks. Right? I love this one too. Is this you? One road's stressed out, the other road's sleep deprived. That often is the way we feel sometimes, right? The one I love is down here. See, it says, living for the weekends and holidays. Right? So that's why you do what you do, right, MJ? So you can get that time off occasionally. Yeah. So don't fret. We can make this happen. We can turn it around because, after all, stressed, when you spell it backwards, is dessert. So it's not such a bad thing. Okay, you can actually turn stress around. So let's. We're going to cover some fundamentals first, some housekeeping or terminologies. Okay. So first of all, I like to, whenever we're going to start really rolling on things now, I like to look at things, even though we say customer, and I will often say customer, I really like to approach it as a client, because there's a significant difference when you look at a person as a client as opposed to customer. And if you instill this as a cultural thing in your business, you'll see just by osmosis your business will start improving and your staff will start favoring people a lot better and treating them a lot better. So the difference is, so like I said, strive to create an internal culture and attitude within your business to reflect providing those customers as opposed to, or clients instead of customers. So definition, a customer is someone who buys a product or service, right? Pretty simple. But a client is someone who's under the care and protection of a benevolent person, that's a person who really cares, and providing functional and relevant products and service. You see the difference? See, they're under the protection and care of someone who truly cares about them. And in fact, isn't that why you're offering the service of the product in the first place? Okay, it's because you actually care about their well-being, right? And if you don't believe in your product or service, you need to find another product or service, right? Right. And later we'll learn also the differences. I don't know if it's in this presentation or one that's coming up, that there's a significant difference, and hear what I'm about to say. There's a significant difference between getting a sale, getting a customer so you can get a sale versus getting a sale so you can get a customer. Okay, I'm gonna let that sink in for just a second, right? So, well, again, we'll cover it a little bit later, but most people go get a customer so they can make a sale, right? That's, in fact, if you ask the majority of people, what's the buying criteria? What do you want to happen when you get a sale or a customer in the door? Well, I want to make a sale. But when you look at it properly and really astutely as a marketer of your thing that you do, then you can understand that actually what you want to do is make a sale so you can get a customer. Because once you get that customer, you can sell to them over and over and over and over and over, right? Because if you start literally looking at the lifetime value of a customer, it even makes sense at times to even lose money on the first sale so that you can get that customer in the door and prove your worth. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
You know, like Stephen back here owns a medical supply company. One customer sale might only profit him, I don't know, a couple $100, right? But if you get that customer in the door and you prove to that person what type of service and products you can really come through with, and you really shine, what is that customer going to be worth for you in the long haul? 5, 10 years down the road. That one $200 client that came in the door could be worth thousands. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that solve that whole, what the heck did that mean, customer, right? Does that make sense? Right, Steen? Steen got it like that. He's mind of steel. Also quickly about the hierarchy of the easiest customers to sell to. This is powerful when you get this one, okay? The easiest customer to sell to is a current client or customer, someone who's already bought from you. Okay, and I believe that's on your sheet there, right? Yes, it is. The easiest customer to sell to is someone who's already bought from you. See, most people concentrate in the other way. They concentrate on getting the new customers. But what about the customers already buying from you? Yeah. It's not only is the easiest customer to get to, but it's also the least expensive. You've already got them. Presumably you're keeping up the contact information on your list, which we'll talk about later as well. But this is powerful. Most people don't get that part. The second easiest customer to sell to is a referral. Someone who's been referred to you by another, presumably, by another customer or client, right? And I believe that's on your sheet as well. And then, of course, the third easiest customer to sell to is one who's bought from you before, okay? So it's a current customer, and then referral, and then someone who's bought from you before. Again, these are folks that you've already got in play, either directly or indirectly. Like when it comes to the referral, that's perhaps an indirect type of connection, but at least it's there. And you can exemplify on it. Who here, by the way, gets a good amount of their business through word of mouth? Okay, several. Okay. Well, if that's your primary function, getting business through word of mouth, then you're going to love it when you learn things about like strategic referral programs, for instance. Because think about that. Word of mouth often happens just by itself, right? It happens through osmosis. It just kind of occurs. But imagine if you will, if you actually instill the program into making it happen, because you're expecting, for instance, more than likely your customers to go out and talk about you on their own. So whatever they're saying, it's not scripted. It's just they just happen to mention it, which has validity in itself. But imagine if you could let them know exactly how you'd like to be presented, right? And what kind of things you say, especially if you can add things like stories into it, or if you can become the expert and the reigning champion of your business, and etc. Then that's the one to turn to. So because trust me, your clients and customers don't get up in the morning and think, I got to get out there and talk about Jerome and his hot sauces. I got to do it today. No. If they happen to mention someone, they will. But if you put a strategic referral program into place, it's almost going to ensure that they'll do that. And by the way, that can mean that you give them an incentive, you give them a juicy ethical bribe, there's all kinds of things you can do. Or it may mean that you just are appreciative, and that goes a long way as well. Does that all make sense? Okay. The 3 ways, and the only 3 ways to grow a business. Okay, this is what you're here for. This is the topic that MJ picked that we wanted to cover. So there is 3 ways and only 3 ways to grow a business, to build and grow a business. Now, yes, you're thinking, well, there's got to be more. Well, sure, there's probably 187,000, but they all come down to these 3, okay? And the first one is, step 1 is what I call it in the business building formula, because there's 3 steps. That's to increase the number of customers, okay? Acquire more customers. The thing is, this is where most people concentrate, don't they? They concentrate on getting more customers, right? Whenever you think I got to get business in the door, I need to get more customers, and that's great. But keep in mind, it's also expensive. You got to constantly go after and chase new customers, okay? But that is the number one of the ways to get customers, and that is actually, of course, the most predominant one that most people concentrate on. This is their main focus. The second one in the formula is to increase the frequency of purchase. So to get your customers to buy more often, to buy your stuff more often. You've already got them in the door, and this is something that people don't often concentrate on. They simply concentrate on going and getting new customers. But what about those customers that you have to buy other things, or buy more often? So to get them in the door or get them to purchase more often. And then the third way, of course, is to increase the average transaction value. What that means is have your customers spend more with each visit. Okay? So think about, again, using Stephen as an example. He owns a medical supply company called Medically Minded. Little plug for him on the video. But You know, he can obviously go out and chase new customers and get more customers and clients in the door, right? But imagine what turnaround in his business would be if he got each one of those clients to buy more often, buy more frequently in some way or another, and or he got them to buy more products, different products, constantly introducing new products for them to buy. That's a wide range of business now he can get. It's using the horizontal business model as well as the vertical business model. Does that make sense? You know, and that literally can change your whole world when it comes to business. Is applying these three and keeping those in mind. In fact, I'll give you a slight little hint. I do a lot of business and marketing consulting. I often will approach a business, and this is the three. My mind is always going back to these three, because most people will approach it as, how can we get more customers in the door? And that's fine. We'll do that. But I want to approach it as, okay, how can we get them to buy more often? And how can we get them to buy other stuff? Right? Doesn't that make sense? It's simple. Remember I told you it was going to be simplistic? Well, this is the simplistic part. You know, it's like, okay, that makes total sense. Now let's talk about the foundation of all marketing. Okay, this is something that I go over just about every speech I give on marketing or business because it's so fundamental and it's so well needed. In fact, let me look real quick. Yeah. Okay. So I'll start by letting you know. Hello. I'll start by letting you know that most entrepreneurs, business owners, sales professionals, when they approach marketing, they get it backwards. Get it completely wrong and backwards. Okay? Now some of you may be thinking, okay, you know, that's a pretty outlandish statement that I'm getting what I'm doing backwards. Most often that's the case. Okay? And here's what I mean about that. Most business owners and entrepreneurs will say, okay, we got to increase business, so we need more customers in the door. What are we going to do to get more customers in the door? And they'll say, well, let's go run an ad, right? That's the thing you pick. Okay, let's run an ad in the newspaper, in the Daily News or the Trader, or let's go get an ad on a radio show, or let's go do a billboard, or you know, the Valpak thing where it's the coupon stuff. That representative was here last week. Let's go put an ad in there. Is that right? Aren't we always thinking we got to run an ad? Completely backwards. 100% backwards. Folks, you first got to determine who you are and what you offer to the public. You first got to come up with what's your message. What is your unique selling proposition? Because you see, there's three sides to marketing. This is this marketing success round. Your message, the market you're going after, and the media you'll pick. Remember, we were going to run an ad or go do a radio show or whatever. That's all media. Okay? That's the last thing you need to pick. The first thing you need to pick out of this, you got to come up with, if you got the right message and the right targets, that's the right market, and the right media picked, then that's where you get success. So the first thing you need to do, and if you're sitting there as a business owner or a sales professional, even if you're a sales professional, you don't own a business, you need to think of, how am I different? What do I offer that's different? Okay, in fact, this is the question you can ask yourself to come up with your unique selling proposition. It's that question right there. Why should I, your ideal prospect, do business with you versus every other option available to me, including doing nothing? That question, the answer to that question will lead you directly to your unique selling proposition. Why are you different? Why should someone care? Okay, quick story on that. I was on a cruise ship one time a couple of years back, started having a conversation with a gentleman next to me, and he, because he was reading the same John Gresham book I was actually, so we struck up a conversation. As it turns out, him and his wife were on this cruise because they owned a restaurant back home, and they were there to kind of get some time away to determine what they're going to do about their restaurant because it wasn't doing so well. Okay, so I asked a few questions, etc., and came down to, I said, ultimately one of my questions was, well, why did you open the restaurant in the first place? Here was their answer. Because we always wanted to own an Italian restaurant. Now, does the client base in the marketplace, do they care that you want to own an Italian restaurant or whatever it is that you do? No. There's one reason to open a business. To fill a market void. That's it. And then, of course, that leads to making money and providing an income for employees and giving back to the community and et cetera. But the reason to open a business is to fill a market void. So if you have an Italian restaurant and you opened it, I mean, first of all, you need to be hopefully appealing to avoid in the marketplace, but you need to be unique in some way or another. Some offering that you have has to be a little bit different than anybody else. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay? So this is what you need to come up with, the answer to this question. And when we break into groups, hopefully you can start thinking about that. And by the way, been open since 1987 is not a unique selling proposition. We offer the best plumbing service around, not a USP. Maybe a slogan, maybe a good slogan, but it's not a USP. But you need to think about the answer to why should I, your ideal prospect, do business with you versus every other option available to me, including doing nothing, because that is an option, right? That's an option as well. And just as a hint, why don't I stop for a moment and give you one of the best examples of a USP around. This started out as two young college kids that were brothers going to the same college, and they bought a little a business, and it was struggling. It was near a college campus. It was struggling. Wasn't doing real well, etc. One of the brothers finally. And the idea was that I'll work in the shop during the day, and you go to school at night during the day, and then we'll flip flop, and I'll do it at night, and you do it, that kind of thing. Didn't do so well. One of the brothers bought the other one out with a trade of a 1987 or 77 Datsun 280Z or something like that. He went off in the sunset, and the other guy was left with this little business and not knowing how to do it. So he came up with a niche and a USP to go after that niche. And on the strength of this USP he came up with, what does USP stand for? Unique selling proposition, right. On the strength of this sole unique selling proposition, he built a multi-billion-dollar business that at the time you could stop anyone on the streets, give them this USP, and they'll immediately tell you what the brand name was. It was one of the most recognizable brands, and it's still around. Do I have your curiosity now? Here it is, and you're going to know what the brand is. It's fresh, hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Great USP. Who knows what it is? Domino's, right. Fresh, hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. That's a 10-word USP, and like I said, on the strength of that USP, Tom Monahan built a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Doesn't that make sense? Because he was unique, he was different. By the way, notice it doesn't mention that it's good pizza. Right? There's no mention that it's the recipes from Mama's recipe from back home, or the tomatoes are picked on the side of this western slope of the mountain every Tuesday. Nothing like that. Which is good, but nothing like that. He was delivering speed. That's it. In fact, if you ask Tom Monahan, Dan Kennedy knows him well, one of my mentors, he'll tell you that if he had to do it again, he would have made it like 29 and a half minutes. Right? More exacting, because it would really drive it home. Does that make sense? So think about your USP. Why should I, your ideal prospect, do business with you versus every other option available to me?
And people would call just the time.
Exactly.
Just for the challenge.
They would call it exactly just the challenge to see if they'll actually make it here, because I'm going to get some free pizza. By the way, as a side note, totally side note, it was also genius that he started all his Domino's franchises on college campuses until he branched out. Because what do college kids need when they're up late studying, right? Right? Or what do they need when they start smoking the wacky stuff, right? Pizza, man. So that was part of it, but the main thing was the USP. Is that all making sense, guys? Isn't it fun? Fun stuff, right? And it's simple. Remember, we're going to stick to the basics, the elementary stuff. So when you have the right target, let me back up here. Hold on a second. Let me back up. So I mentioned it was backwards, right? Most marketers do it backwards. They say, we got to get people in the door. What are we going to do? Let's go pick media. Do your USP first, folks. You got to get your USP, your unique selling proposition. Once you have that, then figure out who your market is. Who are you going to go after? What's that demographic or psychographic you want to go after? Is it, I don't know, females between the ages of 12 and 24? A teenage girl maybe? Or is it males between the ages of, let's say, I don't know, 34 and 35, 64, something like that? Wouldn't that be totally two different markets, right? So wouldn't it make sense that the media with which you would use to reach him or her would be different as well, right? If you're trying to reach that gentleman that's 51 years old, got 2.3 kids, which is very unusual if you ask me, how the 0.3, But and he drives a premium car. He's college educated, that type of thing. You probably wouldn't run an ad in 16 magazine, right? You wouldn't pick that media. But then again, if you wanted that young girl, you probably would do best by putting an ad in the mall or something like that, right? There's other ways to meet them. So you get your USP down. Remember I told you this was backwards. Most people pick media. Get your USP down. Then pick your market. Who are you going to go after? And oftentimes, by the way, you may go after different market segments, but you probably don't want to really focus on more than a couple. Again, using Stephen as an example, his primary business focus and market would be probably folks that operate or run some kind of medical clinic or things like that. They may be predominantly female, they may be predominantly male, whatever. He just has to figure out who they are and then go after them. Once you've got your USP and then you've got your market down, folks, I'm here to tell you the media will present itself. It will rise to the top. It will become obvious. Is this making sense? Because at that point you're going to go, well, of course that this person I'm after, this market segment, listens to that or watches this or that type of thing. I mean, you may, after you do some research on who your market is, maybe you've got a client base presently, for example. I do this with clients. Look at their current client base and their most loyal clients and kind of get a little bit of a psychological profile on who that person is, what makes them up. Demographically, which is of course the age and the sex of the person, and then psychographically is the habits, things that they do. What do they contend with? Like, it's a male between 49 and 55, that's the demographic. Psychographic is that he owns a premium car, he's college educated, he's a member of the Rotary Club. Those are psychographic type of things. But once you've got that down and you know who your person is, let's say, what was the example I was going to use? You may, well, we'll just move on. I don't recall what the thing is. Do you ever do that? Can't recall something you think about? What was that? It'll come to me though, either a little later or in the shower. So let's go over the right targets. So when you come up with a who of marketing, not given nearly enough thought to, most people don't give enough thought to geographic, demographic, B2B, like it's business to business versus business to consumer, the affinity, the clientele, and then the benefits of target marketing is when you actually target down on that one particular person that you want to go after, and you really hone down on that one. It's a lot less expensive to market to that group of people, right? Because you're not trying to do the shotgun effect to get to everyone. You're going straight narrow down to get to that one person. Does that make sense? And when you do, when you've got that message down and you've got your really heavy message talking to that one type of group of people, it gets through a lot quicker because they think, well, they're talking to me. Okay, so some of the benefits of this target marketing is less waste, more efficient, less competitive by far. You attract exactly the customer you want, and you differentiate purely from marketing, of course, and then of course you're more likely to achieve and to arrive at predictable results. You can actually predict what's going to happen when you're doing target marketing versus across the board marketing. So you get the right message, the right markets. Now we need media, and there is, by the way, no bad media necessarily. There's, everything works in its own place. I remember years ago I had a client that called me. He said, "I think I do need your help after all, Rich, because I just placed an ad on the famous Amos placemat thing that you put under the plate." And he thought, I don't know what I'm doing here. And he was right in that sense, but even that has its place depending on who you're going after, right? You probably, if you're familiar with Famous Amos in the States, it's a kind of a low-end restaurant, so you're not going to get the affluent client in a Famous Amos, but there's still validity there. So the principle, as we talked about, is where most people start first. Most of the time, media should be considered last. Like I said, there's no real bad media. So you've got message plus market plus media, it can equal the system. I'm going to move forward on that one. Here's an example of a system that you can put in place in order for your marketing. It's the real estate business. Real estate business has something they call farming. Farming is not pitchfork, corn on the cob kind of thing. But they identify a small, manageable number of group of prospects. That's the market, okay? and then they design a story to attract the folks to them, which is the message. And then they put that into the front of them repeatedly, over and over and over and over. So like a real estate agent or a broker may pick a particular neighborhood or two neighborhoods, and they're going to dominate those neighborhoods. That's called farming. Okay, you can do the same thing in your marketing. Chet Holmes teaches, which we'll talk about later, a technique called the best buyer strategy, or the Dream 100 concept. And in fact, I'll give you an example of that. I had a client that was a restaurant, and we got to talking about his marketing that he'd already done up to this point, and his price point, by the way, was a little higher than normal. So he was a little appealing to the affluent, if you will. And the stuff that he had done up to that point to get customers in the door, clients in the door, and I asked him about direct response marketing. Some people call it direct mail, which, by the way, is really one of the most powerful and most efficient marketing tools you can use, is direct response marketing. By far, it's phenomenal, especially when you tie it together with other things. So I said, well, have you ever done any direct response marketing? He said, yes, we did it. It doesn't work. I said, it doesn't work? Well, tell me about it. How many did you do? He said, we did 6,000. We did a 6,000 piece mail out. I said, okay. What did it cost you? $6,000. Well, okay, that's easy. $1 a piece between buying the item. I don't know if it was a postcard or mailing in an envelope or what have you, and then the stamps, etc. It was $1 a piece. I said, where did you send them? He goes, well, around here. I said, what do you mean? Well, around this area. Okay, so you just 6,000 arbitrarily just sent them to anyone? Yes. And I said, what's the response level did you get? 0. You didn't get any, none at all. So isn't that amazing? That's what I call becoming an advertising victim. Yeah, right? You don't want to become an advertising victim. Advertising victim is $6,000 just out the door. Didn't see a single response from it. But imagine, if you will, right down the road there was a place called the Orange Park Country Club. Just by virtue of its name, you can probably tell what kind of houses are in the Orange Park Country Club, right? And it was about 400 and 450 houses in that country club, and they were higher end houses. I think the starting price of those houses were about $450,000, something like that. Now remember, he was a little bit higher end restaurant too, so his price point was an exact match for this type of clientele. So imagine if he instead took his $6,000 and concentrated it on only and solely 450 houses. So in other words, he can send a postcard to him now, and then he can send a letter, and then another postcard, and then another something, and then on and on and on. He can go a long way with $6,000 for 450 houses, right? Doesn't that make sense? Instead of 6,000 arbitrarily going out. So that would have been a much better match as long as he's got his message down. And we, of course, that was the first thing we worked on with him. And you probably guessed that, right? Worked on the message first, right? You guys with that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so and there's multiple examples on that, but some of the examples of the power of doing farming like this, like finding your clientele and just going after them over and over and over and over and over and over. And by the way, the rules of how often we go after them and try to get that business from someone, the rule is until they get a restraining order or they die. That's how often we go after them to get that business. By the way, I know we're doing that tongue in cheek, but you've got to have a good product and service you're offering. And if you do and you believe in it, then obviously you owe it to them to get that product and service in their hands, right? So the examples of this is of the power of doing this type of thing is down here. In 5 years, 375 transactions in one subdivision for one real estate agent. That's considerable. And a financial advisor in 3 years got over 80 clients, over 300 million under management, all from a carefully selected, compiled list that he got, and only 410 presidents of family-owned businesses. And in a restaurant example, the power of doing this is in 4 months, the repeat carry-out and delivery business established 67 of 180 offices in one complex. That example was they went after an office complex and got carry-out business. Okay, so they had a message, right, and that is that we are the experts in doing, carry-out business for this particular area for businesses, right? And so then they got their market, which was all those businesses in the complex, and they went after them over and over and over and over and over. Does that make sense? Until they scream uncle. right? And oftentimes we like to do things like mix it up a little bit, like multimedia when you're going after a certain clientele. Like the first one might be, for example, an email, and then the next one might be a postcard, and the next one might be what's called sneak up. A sneak up letter is a letter that's going to arrive. Typically it's not in a number 10 business envelope, but it's a smaller envelope, and it's got handwritten, put the stamp on crooked, and no return receipt or return address. Now when someone gets that, what are they going to think? They're going to think, well, maybe it's from grandma, right? Because it just looks like a personal letter, right? But don't forget, we all open our mail over a waste paper basket, don't we? Right? You see the round file, and maybe there's the yes, I gotta have that, and then there's the maybe pile. Well, this might have gone into the gotta have it or maybe pile, but the key is it gets open. It's called a sneak up. And then after what you can do is in that sneak up, you've got your message, your letter or whatever with your logo on it. Now they've seen the logo. Are they going to respond? Maybe not, but maybe. They may even throw it away, but they saw the logo. Then the next time you can send a postcard with the logo right on it. Postcard doesn't have to get open. And they may still throw that away, but they may also go ding, unconsciously. I've seen that before. And then maybe the next one is an email. Then the next one maybe is a normal letter in a number 10 envelope with the logo on the outside. Because see, now they've seen the impression. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Right? And and by the way, this technique was borrowed really from the collection company world. If you think about it, because what do they do to try to get those monies collected if one of their clients are owed, right? They send stuff over and over and over and over and over until they finally get someone to ante up, right? So thinking about it like this, if it works on a group of people that don't have any money and you're not giving them anything, imagine if we went after people that have money and we give them something, right? Doesn't it make sense? And by the way, if you keep doing this over and over, you're going after this certain segment of the business that you want. And again, best buyer strategy, maybe it's only 20 or 30 people or businesses or whatever. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you got to pick those that really would rock your world and change your world if you got them, right? Stephen, if you identified a handful and said, if I got business from these clients, only these 14, it would completely change the trajectory and the direction of my business. So it makes sense to go after them over and over and over and over. And we often, after we go through the letter and the postcard and the email and the letter and the postcard and email, sometimes then we send lumpy mail, which is like 3D mail, like something in there. Maybe it's a compass, and then the compass, little toy compass, and it says, are you lost? We sent you those other emails and that letter, come on over. Or it's a Rubik's Cube saying, I'm puzzled why you haven't called us. These kind of things, right? It gets open though because it's lumpy. Something's in there, right? It gets open. Is this making sense? I'm telling you, you don't have to spend a lot of money to go rock your business and rock your world. Go with the best buyer strategy and it makes sense. And I'm going to give you exact examples of that in just a little bit. So like I said, some people say, well, I've tried direct mail, it doesn't work. Well, let's go over an exact example. By the way, I love this one. Look at this picture. They're going into the fitness place so they can get on the treadmill or the stair climber, but they got an escalator in order to get in there. I just thought that was the funniest thing. And it's real too, it's not Photoshop. Okay, so one of the toughest businesses, of course, is here, wait, don't read that yet. One of the toughest businesses is restaurant business, right? We can probably all agree upon that. Very, very competitive, hard to pull it off. You really got to have your skills honed down in both culinary skills as well as business skills and marketing skills. Can we all agree upon that? You see them go in and out of business all the time, which I had one particular guy I wanted to hear this. He's in the restaurant business. He's not here today, but he'll see it. Well, in order to do an example or to show that these techniques actually will work in any business, in any industry, one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy, did this campaign, and effectively he had an Italian restaurant, and he went after a certain segment of the audience around that, and this is what he did in order to do it. He used direct response marketing to bolster and build a restaurant, which is very unheard of. Usually they'll just do couponing. Again, they pick media first, right? And they do couponing and things like that in order to get business. But check this out. This is powerful stuff, okay? He sent a letter, and the letter said it was addressed to the man of the household. Okay, not the woman, it was addressed to the man of the household. And here, A confidential letter to the man of the house, the husband of the house, from the romance director, Giorgio, at Giorgio's Italian Grotto. Okay? And it says, and there was a picture up here of Giorgio, the romance director at the restaurant. Doesn't that sound good already? Okay, so here's a letter. It says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but, and by the way, this is structured perfectly when it comes to writing a proper letter. Create the problem first, and then agitate the problem, and then, right, rub some salt in the wound, whatever, and then come to the rescue and offer the solution. That's a properly done direct response letter, or any kind of letter, really. But check this out. To dear husband, women are different than we are. Your loving wife needs, wants, and deserves special attention, maybe more often than you think to give it to her. Just catching his attention already, right? Right? He knows who he's marketing to, the husband, so he's talking directly to the husband. You are busy, preoccupied with work, aggravated with that dum-dum that you have to deal with every day at the office, tired. Who has time or energy to even think about romance? 2/3 of all marriages end in divorce, and the number one reason given by the divorcing women, he didn't pay enough attention to me anymore. Has he agitated the problem? Right? He found the problem and he's just grinding it in, man. So, exactly right. For you, my friend, I have a solution. He comes right out and says it. With this letter, you are entitled to an evening charmed by all the creativity of Giorgio, the official romance director. When you and your very significant other, arrive at Giorgio's, you'll be ushered to the special dining room lit only by candlelight and the roaring fire in the fireplace, with the views of the sunset or starry night over the harbor. When you make your reservation, I will guarantee your choice of a near fireplace or a window-side table. Here's the creative, vivid words he's using in pictures to appeal to the senses. Okay, that's what he's doing here. In this uncrowded, intimate dining room, there will be no families, no children, no interruptions, quiet mood music, a peaceful environment, a haven from the hustle, bustle, noise, and pushing and shoving of the real world. On your table, in a crystal a bud vase, there will be a single, dewy, fresh red rose. Not just a rose. It's a dewy, fresh red rose. You gotta love it. And the vase will be hers to take home, and you'll get champagne and, da 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 da. Now, does that capture attention? It does, right? When the husband reads that, and it's to him, so he opens it, this is gonna grab his attention, okay? And of course the headline helps and the little picture and that kind of thing. Now, that's a direct response marketing campaign, but that's just one of the levels, right? One step in it. So, of course, what do we do after we send that? We send another one. So here's the other one. Dear, and he put 3 coins up here, that old song, 3 Coins in a Fountain. It's a little before my time, but I've heard of it. Dear husband, as you can see, I've attached 3 pennies to this letter. I've done so for 2 very important reasons. To capture your attention just for a moment or two, and second, to remind you of the wonderful romantic song, 3 Coins in a Fountain. You see, this is your second notice, right? Your romance wake-up call from me, Giorgio, the romance director at Giorgio's Italian Grotto. And then it's a stress-filled, busy, hectic, tough, firing, demanding, mind-numbing, energy-zapping battle each and every day, isn't it? I'm a businessman too, and a husband, who's been married for 25 years. It's tempting not to pay attention to your wife, and da 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 da. Everybody follows where it's going, right? So what do you do after that? You send another one. Hear that lonesome whippoorwill. He sounds too blue to cry. This is Georgia, too blue to cry, disappointed. Attached are the 2 copies of the previous letters I sent to you, extending you my special invitation to let me create a magic romance evening for you and your loving wife. Maybe you missed them. Please read them now. Okay, so he's actually putting the other letters right in there, referencing them. Now, these days, we'd also compile this with email and this type of things. But is this making sense to everybody? Can you see how they would actually get business in the door for a restaurant like this? Okay. Now the other one I really love. Can the marriage be saved? Right? And then the whole type of thing, goes on and on and on. But I love that. Can the marriage be saved? So can you see how this would work, folks? This is, again, just one example, and it's just one media. Okay, it's just direct response marketing. There's so many other medias to do, but the point is to be able to put it all together and piece all the components together. Does that make sense? Okay. And here's proof. This is for a different type of thing. At your seminar in Omaha, we learned the three-letter system, put it into use, selling our coupon books. We targeted 1,600 local companies. There probably was 50,000 companies they could have gone after, but they targeted 1,600 only. We sent the letters out 9 days apart. Our response was 7. Now, most people would send one letter and be done with it. If you do that, don't even bother. Don't even waste your money, okay? Just do some other media or pick another business or whatever. But most people do that and then stop. This person got a 7% response the first time, second letter 8% because they compile on top of each other. And then 3% the next time, which was 18% overall. They sold 3,700 of their little coupon books that they were after. Pretty cool stuff, huh? And it's not very costly. Again, if their whole marketplace potential clientele was, let's say, 50,000, they only went after 1,600, that's reasonable. Maybe with you, it's only 124 that you want to go after. Maybe it's 19, maybe it's 200, I don't know, but pick your best buyers and rock and roll. Love this one too, don't hit kids. No, seriously, they have guns. Right? So this is where we're going to talk about what we just learned and et cetera. Does anybody have any comments, thoughts, things like that they want to go over? Come on, guys, it's interactive. You can share. Yes,
Are you
MJ.
going to share some of these things in additional handouts?
Yes, I'm actually going to be sending you guys, which I'll cover a little later, additional things, and I can email stuff to you, and et cetera. Do you have everyone's email addresses, or do you, maybe Jill's back there? Raise your hand, Jill. Say hi. That's Jill Scott. Jill, not the singer Scott. Okay, and maybe if you want to give her your email addresses, we can send you some info that I'll be putting up here a little bit later. But so yeah, no problem. I'll be covering what that is a little later. So any examples or thoughts on how you guys can use these type of techniques? I mean, first of all, your USP. Anybody want to give me an example of their USP? What are you using now? What kind of business are you in?
Graphic arts.
Graphic arts?
Arts, graphic arts.
I know that voice.
Satisfying your arts desires.
That's your thing, satisfying your arts desires? That's good. I like that. I don't know if it really targets down on what it is, though, because it could be donuts, right? I know your voice.
Peter Gonzalez.
The Gonzalez, okay, got it. Cool.
Finally with me.
Yeah, finally we meet, at least for the distance, yeah. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm really glad you're here. He actually, Peter did our posters back there, actually. They came out really good. We appreciate that. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about that as well. But so is that for the business that you got inside the school?
No.
Your side business?
Yeah.
Cool. Which is graphic arts? Which means what you do what?
We advertise banners, posters, signs, cards.
Okay, you guys hear that, right? You got a guy in the room that does all the little things you're going to need: posters, banners, signs, on and on and on.
Things like that.
T-shirts as well. Gotcha. And you do most of that through the school, or?
I have my own as well as in the school. I teach in the school.
Tell us what the school that you do there as well.
Yeah, I teach at the Sequel Shop in the school.
Right.
Again, the graphic arts is the combination of pictures, words, advertising, certain messages.
Right. Yeah. Anything in print that needs to be conveyed to the clientele, etc. So yeah, we also did a banner for Paradise Cove through you guys, etc. So that's a great thing to get involved with, by the way. Not only does he provide these type of things, but he does it through the schools, so the school benefits as well. So you're doing a double beneficial thing there for the schools and for yourself.
I'll give you an example.
I think.
Yeah, there's the example of.
Yeah, I do fine art. I'm a fine art painter, graphics.
Oh, you do?
And fine arts.
Really?
Did he
Painting
have
as
the
well.
pictures in First Bank?
I was waiting on it to say he's talking about that.
Iguanas?
Oh, really?
Right now, yeah.
Really? Peter, you did those things in First Bank?
Yeah, some of those.
Awesome. So you do mural paintings?
I do murals, I do.
Wow, talented guy.
Satisfying your art desires.
I love it. Cool. I like that. So see, you guys get to see some benefits there. So satisfying your art desire, I'm just thinking how we might be able to punch that up a little bit, because it doesn't, it says what you do,
but not specific.
Right, specific, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you could add something to the end of it with, graphic arts, things like that. I mean, yeah, some people go, when they do USPs also, the pet peeve one I have, typically is when someone says, let us, whatever, let us do your plumbing work. You know, but I mean, keep in mind, it's all about the person and what they want, not what you want. Let us means what's in it for me, not what's in it for you as a customer, you know. Anybody, no one here, I didn't offend anyone, did I? No one here is using let us, right? Just like another pet peeve I have is when we write letters, like, you know, direct response marketing letters or whatever, you never want to start it out with I. I want to introduce myself. My name is da 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 da. You always want to start it out with something beneficial to them, the person that's reading it. You know. Yeah. Never. You know, whether it be a thank you, anything like that. There's always a way to turn it around to what's beneficial for them. Because what's that old saying? No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. That kind of thing. What about you? What kind of business you in?
I'm the nanny provider for the local hotels and villas.
Perfect, really. So if someone comes in off island and they want to go have a nice dinner and they got their kids with them, they call you. And how do you get your customers now?
Word of mouth. The hotels recommend, our guests recommend to friends that's coming.
Right. So the like present, do you get
And
brochures?
website.
You have brochures you can?
I have brochures, I have cards and website.
And website, perfect.
Caribbean
And-
nanny services.
And so your ultimate customer is the parents, right? But your in-between customer, your catalyst, is the hotel managers, concierge,
Correct.
people like that. So do you also, who actually is typically the one to recommend? Is it the front desk person, housekeeping, or is it actually a manager?
Usually the concierge.
The concierge.
Concierge mostly.
Right. So
Or travel agents, if it's from away, travel agents.
So do they sometimes book with you before they even land on island?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they like to wait until they get here.
Right.
But I'm trying to put that part to a stop because it's easy to plan when you get here, but it puts pressure on me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
you know, we want to go out tomorrow
it's
night.
currently being revised. Everything is currently being revised to better work for them and for myself.
Right, exactly. And do you have ideas on how to do that? How to make that happen?
I have ideas, but not enough, and I'm hoping to grasp some stuff in
Right.
today.
Well, one way you can think about possibly approaching it is if you, and it goes back to that strategic referral type of thing, you know, that we discussed. Imagine if you sat down with a concierge slash front desk person slash manager, whomever, and kind of instructed them on how best they could present you. Not necessarily scripting it exactly, but here's some guidelines. And so, for example, if they get a booking and they notice the booking is for more than one, and it's a family, you know, then that'd be a great one for them to, you know, give them a call, an email, something. And you, by the way,
I plan to give them after I restructure everything. I plan to give them a guide.
Mhm.
They already have
Perfect.
one, but they kind of do it how they want, and
Right.
mostly what they do now is just give the guests my number.
Right.
Whereas I prefer that anyway because they might just call and say, I guess Tom Jones need a nanny for tomorrow, 3 o'clock, and I want to know the age of the children to send someone appropriate.
exactly. Right.
So I like to speak with them myself.
Sure. But imagine if some of the more of the work is done for you too, and like you said, to do it sooner, so you're not having to scurry around trying to find the right
Right.
person. But if you knew a week ahead of time,
But hotels, the hotels don't want to go that route. It only go that route if I'm on their website. And
are you on some of the websites?
Maybe one of them, but the major one where I do service, which is the Ritz-Carlton, don't have us on their site.
Right.
And
But they refer you.
they would refer me.
And by the way, if I can interject just a minute, while we're discussing another business, you may think, well, I don't need to pay attention because that's a nanny business and I'm in the plumbing business or I'm in something completely different. But folks, I'm here to tell you, a business is business is business.
That's right.
Period. Some of the biggest breakthroughs can almost always come from a completely different industry than yours. Because we tend to do, it's called marketing incest. We do the same thing that the other guy did, and the other guy did, and the other guy did. Well, there's no real breakthroughs in an industry that way. But if you can listen to one type of business and go, oh my gosh, we never did that in my industry, it's unheard of, but it can be applied. So, you know, this is good stuff, trying to figure out how we can, you know, make this happen. I mean, my recommendation would be try to get to those people and spend a little time with them and maybe give them some tools so they can recommend sooner. Like if they can identify that a family just booked, You know?
I plan to, and I plan to indicate to them why I would like it done in advance, because as
Right.
far as they're concerned, they're doing me a favor.
Right.
But I want to show them where I'm doing them a favor, because I have guests
That's right. Beneficial
that
to
didn't
them.
go out for dinner because they didn't know that service was available, so they're ordering
existed.
pizza and not from their restaurant.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Exactly. That's a benefit to them. You're
So
exactly
I
right.
do plan to speak with them, but I'm just trying to get my
That's perfect.
structure.
And by the way, when you do the piece, like if you do a brochure like that or something like that, I always like to put, like you're saying, and it's perfect. Your instincts are great. Just to give them that benefit, but as oftentimes you can do, you know, there's a significant difference between features and benefits. You know, features is like the old tired example, but it still works, is no one buys a drill because they need a drill. They buy a drill because they need a hole, right? So you can line out, here's the feature for the person, why they would want to do this. Here's the benefit to them. And if it's in bullet point fashion, exactly spell out next to it what that benefit really means.
Right.
You know, and let's say you got 8 of those bullet points. It's a real great visual for them to get in a hotel. And you know, you could have 2 different pieces too. You could have a brochure for them to give to the parent or the groups,
They have some.
to the concierge, that covers those bullet points, what's beneficial for them. The parent will never see it. It's an internal type of thing, but it can speak their language, you know, and then it will take that word of mouth that you already get, and you're getting it because you obviously offer good services, or you wouldn't be getting it. So I know you do a good job. It just, that tells me that. But it takes it to a whole other level, because now you've taken it's a no-brainer. You know, of course. And do you have competitors as well that kind of do it here and there?
On a small scale, but not hotel-wise. As far as I know, I'm the only one they recommend, but I know there are other, I don't know if the agency, but there are other individuals out there doing the thing.
Right, right. Like, yeah, you probably compete, so to speak,
But,
with the person that just
I
does it on the
know-
side.
I knew for a while mine was the only one that they were using, and I don't know if it's because I was the only insured one. And
Sure.
a lot of folks shy away from that because
Right.
you have to really want to do this to insure, because it's costly for the fact that it's children and
Yes.
take them to the pool and the beach.
Right,
It's not
right.
just like a daycare where they're stationed. So
Right. Yeah, I can
most hotels don't want to see you if you're not insured. Come back when you're insured.
Right. I can see a direct response campaign directly to the hotels, because there's not that many, and you only need to, you know, if you secured them all or most of them, then your
Right.
business would be rocket, you know, to the next level.
Yeah, but they're trying to, and most of them, of course, are chain hotels.
Right.
And the heads of most of them do not want to lock in to an extreme.
Mhm.
In other words, I would really like to at least get a brochure in each book in each room.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
would really be helpful, and they don't want to really do that.
They don't want to do that.
No.
Why? What's the reasoning they give you?
They don't say, but I have a feeling because I am not.
Because they feel like they're going to be endorsing, and they're
Maybe they're afraid
liability?
they're afraid to endorse, but I have my own insurance.
Right.
They don't want to do it because they don't want to be bothered with small little people. Most of the hotels have like from 5 to 12 programs of 5 to 12.
Right.
Mine is from 1 day old to 99,
Gotcha.
and they don't want the responsibility. And very few companies go through them. I would like to go through them, but it has its advantages and disadvantages. I don't know if it's because we're local, but they do have times when they have like big groups travel.
Right.
Let's say come down for summertime when it's slow. Groups will come down in the summer and they're allowed to bring their families,
Yes.
and we will organize a program for them. Sometimes I have to wait 10 months for a payment.
Oh, wow. 10
Yeah,
months?
And that's when I
30, 60,
pressure them.
90, 10 months?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long.
And they
See, I
say
see
they pay out
that.
every month. So if you pay out every month, how come I have to wait 10 months?
Yeah.
I know I'm not on a regular something, but 10 months.
That's ridiculous.
So
See,
I'm
I see
kind
that as a
of
big.
okay not being with them,
Right.
even though it has its advantages. And I said I was going to negotiate where it can go through them, and I just adjust the fee so
Right.
they can get a percentage. But I rather pay them than they pay me.
Yeah. See, I see there's another big advantage. I mean, you could do a whole sheet on this and have a handout sheet. That another advantage is if they got it early, if they connected you to the parents early enough, then let's say Exxon just came to the Ritz. Exxon, it may be still there. Are they still in the Exxon? They're gone. Well, they just came. But imagine they send 100 employees down to the Ritz here. If they knew ahead of time, they might bring their kids.
Yeah.
You know, so imagine if only out of 100 employees, they're going to all bring their spouses. Well, maybe 20 of them or 30 of them might also have children they could bring if they knew about your services beforehand. And the obvious benefit to the Ritz is, well, you got a larger crowd now. You got more mouths to feed.
Right.
And you know, it's a bigger ticket item for them now. They just increased the volume of their business probably by 20 to 30% just by connecting them with you.
On one hand, but on the other hand, like some
I wanna
of
be
the
at that
employees
meeting.
say that they're not allowed to recommend it, but if they ask,
Right.
that's when they would give.
Right. But maybe there's a way that you could do that where it's not an endorsement, but here it is. In fact, maybe you even put together your brochures that say at the bottom of it, this is the hotel that's giving this to you is not endorsing or affiliated with your business, that kind of thing. Maybe they feel comfortable with that, more comfortable. They may not, the comfort level may not ever go away completely because of the liability things, but that's fun. I mean, that's to me that's a fun business to mold just right and to get in there. Jill, you had something you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to ask her if she was bonded and fingerprinted. Are you bonded and fingerprinting all your employees also?
If what was the last part?
Bonded.
Bonded
Yes.
and fingerprinted?
I haven't done fingerprint, but as I said, everything is being revised. And for example, every employee have to bring a police report, but right now I want a police record, which would have to be from afar. So it will be beyond local police report. So all that is being
I mean,
revised.
I know why the Ritz doesn't do it, because that was a question that I had for them. It's because of insurance. They want their own insurance and they don't have it. They will mention your name, but that's it. You know, I mean, I work in the spa and there's times that the people can't show up because the babysitter didn't show up. You
So
know?
they don't have any internal babysitters at the Ritz, right?
Well, they refer.
They refer.
They give out names, and the client's responsible for getting their own babysitter. They don't want to be involved.
So I guess actually that might be a decent point if the bonding, the fingerprinting, the this and the that, and the police reports, it was all in a package, and that would take a lot of their liability concerns away, maybe. And you're already on the way there. It sounds like you're
Right,
revamping
not only
things.
that, and I don't mind going the extra mile, but trust me, it will be something else after that.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
the way of the world.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other comments for her? Stephen, I think you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, when she said earlier that she was trying to give them, looking out for them and giving them the more benefit of the doubt. In other words, them ordering pizza, not from the hotel, from someone else. All that is a disadvantage to them that happening, as opposed to that
Absolutely.
supposed to be an advantage. One-stop shop.
Yeah.
Right.
You have the nanny, you have anything munchies that you could want here on property.
Right.
Yeah,
They're losing business.
pizza
And-
too.
Yeah, and someone needs to let them know.
I do plan to
You know.
try and sit with them when I get everything in place, but I encounter all of that. I would, if I have time, I go out there sometime and hand out my brochure. Gee, I wish we knew that we're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I said, well, sorry, I didn't know, but maybe when you're filling out your they have a card, they usually
Response, compliments,
your comments and comments form. I said make sure include that because it's something they need to know. And hearing it from me, it's a record. But hearing it from you, who they'll be happy to see next year.
Right.
Babysitting is really a problem on my
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
A lot of people come from all over the world and they bring their kids everywhere because they can't find a babysitter.
Right, and they don't tell them.
And Mary Jo was going to say
I was
something.
gonna say, like in the timeshares,
Yeah.
the groups come in every Saturday. So if you could show up for that
Right.
managers meeting at 5 or 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening, pass out your own stuff. Just mix it.
I used to sometimes,
Yeah.
and all of that will be back in to place.
Yeah, there's a lot of places too that they have like a concierge meeting.
They do have
on the beach or
welcome,
whatever and give them a free
welcome
liquor.
social
Yeah.
for,
Right.
and some of the hotels have spots where locals have a table
Right.
on the day that they have their welcome party. But it's hard to get in there. And I have got an offer when I didn't need it, but when there are no children.
Oh, right.
It's seasonal for me from like the day after Christmas to this weekend, Memorial Weekend. Anything after that is like count your blessings.
Right.
And they might call me in the summertime when one or two of the folks that have a table is away or whatever.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, Daphne, we do have a space you can get if you'd like.
Right.
I can, but 6 people checking in, none with children, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really worth it at that point. You know, another idea. I always like think in terms of multimedia, multi aspects. You know, to get things in your client's hands to tell your message and why you're different. Remember that whole thing. One would be you could do it like a DVD or something. Maybe do an interview, have someone interview on a video as to what your benefits are, why it should appeal to the concierge, the hotel managers, that kind of thing, and then just hand out those DVDs. Get a nice little label on it. I mean, once you get this thing done, you know, you're talking about like, what is it, 76 cents for a DVD? But the intrinsic value is more than that. Then when they see it, especially if it's got a nice little label on it, they think, oh, value. So, and they're typically, someone hands you a DVD, you're going to pop it in. You know, especially if you tell them, if you hand it to them or send it to them in the mail, because that's a lot faster than going into each one of them. And in it, you say there's a relatively short video. You know, it's not very long at all. It's 6 minutes or so they'll pop it in. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'll try to get that in if I can get a meeting with them, because leaving it there is probably literally leaving it there. But
Yeah. Well, that's why you
the
want to put it in the mail
opportunity
if you can. You know, because
if I do
then
get the
it's a-
opportunity to have a meeting with them, I would have that as part of my meeting
Right.
to make sure they see it.
as a leave behind, you mean? Well, it can go both ways too.
If it's not going to be long, so then it can be during while I'm there.
Right. Well, the thing is, you could use something like this to get the meeting, because that's most often what we're doing when we do, if you're here tonight, you'll learn about the website stuff and SEO and things like that. In that world, it's offline and online, it's virtually the same. All we're really wanting to do, for the most part, is to get someone to raise their hand. You got this mass amount of people out there that could potentially be your customers. Let's say everyone on the island could be potentially a customer for a restaurant, for example. But the better possibility of the better narrowed down customer is ones that fits their psychological profile and their price point, but also maybe geographically, because people tend to go to restaurants near their home or their work. So that narrows it down. And then if you did some of these type of things where, like the example of the romance director thing, silly example, but it works, that narrows it down even more. But really all you're wanting to do is someone to raise their hand and say, yeah, I think I might be interested in more information. And same thing here, if you send these things out, as well as other correspondence from you, then when they get it, they might, say, well, gosh, that's something that may appeal to me or us or whatever, especially if it lines. The other thing too, a benefit of doing something like this and the other printed marketing pieces that we talked about is that whatever the top objections that people have, and I hope you guys are hearing what I'm saying about for your business too, but cover the objections they may have for your business or the things, the roadblocks in the way of them buying your products and services, cover them right up front. Put it right out in front. Like if there's a downside to it, concern or something like that, just cover it. And then, there's less objections down the road when you actually do get in front of them. And of course, you can also use the same type of piece as a leave behind as well. Will they listen to it or watch it? Maybe, maybe not. And if you don't want to get on camera to do a DVD, you could always have a video made for you on your behalf. You can stream it on your website, or you can also, of course, do just an audio. You can get interviewed by someone. In fact, I interview people on my radio show, come to think of it. So that could work too. Anyone here could interview you though, And of course, you give them the questions to ask you, right? Of course. Then speaking of that, can I get, Mary Jo, I can get online here, right? Can't I? Maybe Steen can come up or get me online. I was going to show you guys a video potentially.
Exclusively for small to medium-sized business owners selling products or services. At the conclusion
You guys
of
hear
the
that?
video, you'll
Okay.
learn how to easily get your very own free special report entitled Hassle-Free Target-Rich Marketing, Avoiding the Top 12 Mistakes Nearly All Business Owners Make so you can easily pierce the competition. So let's get started. But first, a few quick questions for you. Are you one of the 97% of business owners who are dissatisfied with the results you're getting from your current marketing and advertising? Do you have loads of great ideas for your business, yet lack the time to implement them all? Or are you among the huge group of entrepreneurs who do your own advertising, yet get less than favorable results.
Isn't that cool?
because of
Kind of looks like a hand
inconsistency and
writing
no
and drawing
time
it.
to follow up.
You guys can see that, all
Just
right?
imagine what would happen in your business if you had a fully functioning, expertly engaged marketing director on staff. You see, for many years, there's been a tremendous void in the marketplace. What's a small to medium-sized business to do to play with and compete with the big boys without the big budgets? After all, putting a full-time marketing director on staff means paying a high salary that ranges from $138,000 to well over $300,000. And that doesn't include the exorbitant fees an internal marketing director would cost, including office space, vehicle and travel, necessary technology equipment, and more. And most would demand a high-dollar expense account and may even take every Tom, Dick, and Harry out to high-priced lunches on your dime. And what about hiring an advertising agency? Well, that's great, as long as you don't mind getting constant pressure to spend more and more on traditional advertising. Because that's the primary method in which ad agencies get paid, by you spending money over and over. And of course, there's always the issue of your needs and goals being far below that of the agency's. In fact, here's the typical advertising agency's hierarchy of priority. 1. Media commissions. 2. Markups. 3. Other profit centers. 4. Creative concerns. 5. Peer approval. 6. Portfolio building. Theirs. 7. Awards. 8. Satisfying superiors' biases. 9. Satisfy clients' preconceived ideas. 10. And finally, results. But who can tell anyway? Let's face it, isn't your list of priorities something more like this? Results. Doesn't quite match up now, does it? Well, we have some great news. The premise of our approach is actually quite simple. You can easily hire your own marketing director without the six-figure salary, and you'll achieve far better results. No doubt, once you get your free special report, you'll agree ours is a new and indispensable approach whose time has come. So what can your own marketing director do for you and your business? Anything and everything related to marketing, advertising, and promotions for any type, size, or style of business, including one of our most popular, performing professional critiques of your current marketing and advertising. That's right, we'll analyze and diagnose your ads, whether newspaper ads, magazine ads, your brochures, rack cards, radio and TV spots, billboards, and nearly any other type of media you can think of. In fact, it's highly doubtful that you can think of a marketing challenge that your own marketing director cannot solve or polish to make better, more efficient, and more profitable. Finally, you'll have complete confidence in knowing that your business will grow and strengthen through proper strategy and planning, intense laser focus, consistent action, and specific tailored follow-up that will dazzle clients, create advocates, ensure raving fans, and best of all, explode profits and increase your bottom line. All by hiring your own marketing director without the six-figure salary. While a growing number of business owners, entrepreneurs, and company executives are realizing they need help in marketing and business strategies, typically we engage with two types of clients. A. The company principal hires us to provide new and innovative marketing and business strategies, ideas, and concepts, and very much wants the staff, clients, suppliers, and investors, and often spouses or family, to know all about the appointment. This move frequently provides massive boost in the company morale and eases tensions among other key business and personal relationships like those noted above. This smart, transparent maneuver makes the boss the hero. And B. The company principal hires us to provide new and innovative marketing and business strategies, ideas, and concepts, but does not want anyone to know about it. We're perfectly happy to come in through the back door and allow you to take all the credit for the ideas and new changes being applied. This smart stealth maneuver makes the boss or whoever made the wise decision to hire us a genius. And some of our clients do a combination of both. It's your call. Either way, engaging your own marketing director bolsters your position in the company and reinforces you as the ultimate champion. What could be better? And keep in mind, whether you are a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker, it doesn't matter in the slightest. In fact, we've worked with over 127 different industries and growing. So what's the next step to hiring your own marketing director? Get your hands on your own copy of our free special report, Hassle-Free Target-Rich Marketing, Avoiding the Top 12 Mistakes Nearly All Business Owners Make, so you can pierce the competition. And you'll soon see why hiring your own marketing director is fast becoming the business owner's first choice when seeking to grow their business. Click over to the right for your free special report. Focus, action, follow-up. YourOwnMarketingDirector.com. Finally, the secret to the most profound increases in the trajectory, direction, and growth of your business. 904-701-4249.
Bless you.
Well, I showed this to you as just as an example of what's possible out there to get videos. So if you don't want to do a video yourself, you're shy on camera or whatever, these type of videos can be done, hire folks out, etc. We've got programs to do these type of things, and they're a lot of fun. Yeah, you had a comment?
But was this video that effective for this company? Because it held my interest for about 20 seconds, and then I started tuning it out. Like it's too long.
It is long, actually.
Yeah.
This is the one we did, actually. It's about 6 minutes long, but the reason that it was done that way is so that we could then we could use it as this whole 6 minutes on a DVD, like hand it to someone like we talked about, or you can, and this is the benefits of this, or you can take it, and we spliced it up, actually. We got 5 videos out of this one video. You remember the part where it talks not so kindly about advertising agencies, right? I mean, and I speak from experience, by the way, because I was a media rep for years. I worked with a lot of the top advertising agencies in the country, and it's very sad to see that they engage with a client and then they don't really perform for them. They really care about other things besides results. So what we did with the video is we took that part out, and we can use that as a completely separate video itself, just dealing with advertising agencies. Then there was another section in there that dealt with the 2 types of businesses we deal with. One is a person who wants, they bring us in, they want everyone to know that they brought us in, right? So they can be the hero. Or the other one is they don't want anyone to know about us. We come in the back door and do the things for them, and they take the credit. So they're the genius. That's another one. We take that out. So we've got another video, and then we put the rest of it together. That together, without those 2 components, was about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And again, it captures a lot quicker. You saw the long version, and that's why you were snoozing probably. Right. But and the other thing too is it all goes back to the right remember the right message, the right market, the right media. If you have a business and you care about growing that business, that is going to be a message that's very compelling to you. That type of thing. So it's always very important, of course, to match those up: the right message, right market, right media. Remember we covered that, the 3 M's, right? But the other thing that's instructive here about this is not just the video, but when you have videos, the other thing is you can use the audio out of them as well. So that's something you can use on a different format or on CD or whatever, play it on the radio or what have you. But you can also use the script from that as well, the transcript. But the other thing, like if you were to do a video, for example, on covering the objections and things like that, you can stream it on your website, as you can see. And this technique that's being used here, by the way, is used very, very, very successfully, particularly on the internet, but it's an offline example. The direct response marketing companies for the last 100 years have done this, and that is put something out there and then give them some kind of juicy ethical bribe to get them to raise their hand and say, pick me, I'm a little interested, so they can go to the next level. In this case, we're using electronic media, although it works really well offline. Again, just so you remember that it was invented offline and only used online. But in this case, you come right to the website, and you've got that video, which, by the way, we are going to put the shorter one on soon. And then here's the bribe, the free special report is the ethical bribe. It's for them to share their information with you. And by the way, if you are over here on your website and you ask for more than just name and email, if you're asking for first name, last name, email, phone number, and they're all required, things, you're not going to get as many, obviously, right? But if you just simply ask for name and email address, you're going to get a lot more. So it's an exchange. You give us your contact information, we'll give you a very valuable special report that you can read and help your business. And of course, down here, we're also asking, in the case of the Caribbean Marketing Director, if they're a current business owner and entrepreneur in the Caribbean, or if they're wishing to penetrate the Caribbean marketplace of the 41 million people in the Caribbean, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And there's 2 other videos below and things like that. But I just thought I'd share that video with you guys in case you're the type that don't want to be on camera, or or do that type of thing. There's a lot of other creative videos out there that you can do. Any other questions or comments or anything? Anything? Okay. Okay, so this is a great quote that I've always loved, by the way. When an archer misses the mark, he turns and looks for fault within himself. Failure to hit the bullseye is never the fault of the target. To improve your aim, improve yourself. And obviously that's what you guys are here for, but I just love that quote because it's got a lot of validity. I'll cover a couple more things and then we're done for the day, or at least for this session. You guys can go grab lunch and that type of thing. But everybody familiar with this book? Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich? Anybody not read this book? It's not very thick. It's very thin.
I haven't read it yet. I have the book, but I didn't read it.
You read it? This is definitely one of the most classic books of all times. I highly recommend reading this book. It's fabulous, and it's not that thick. It's the story is that Napoleon Hill, this gentleman here, he was a newspaper reporter many years ago. He was commissioned. He went to interview. The newspaper sent him out to interview Andrew Carnegie, which at the time was the wealthiest man on the planet, Carnegie Steel. And after talking with him for a little while, he was supposed to be there for just like 30 minutes. He was ended up spending a couple hours, and then Carnegie took him to his home. And here's this broke, young buck journalist interviewing the most powerful man in some ways on the planet. And Carnegie had an idea that percolated in his head for a while about the fact that all the most successful people in the country at the time, or in the world at the time, this is back in the 19-teens or something, but there must be a common thread among all of them who are very, very successful, at least financially. So he actually asked this young kid, which Napoleon Hill's, he's gone now, he's passed away some years back. He asked him if he would be interested in taking on a project, which would be Carnegie would introduce him to some of the top financial wizards and businessmen on the planet at the time, if he would, for no pay whatsoever, go out and discover what those common threads are, and then put them in a book form or something like that and reveal them to the world. He said it would probably take you 20 years to do. Are you interested in doing it? And unbeknownst to Napoleon Hill, Carnegie had a little stopwatch down here. He was going to give him like 120 seconds. And it took him about a minute to say, yes, I'll do it, that kind of thing. And he went on to do this, and this is the result of that book. Okay, like I said, the landmark bestsellers, it's about his interview and what he took out. I think there's 13 common themes, but highly recommend you getting Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. One of the things in there, one of the key components that he identified as being responsible for the massive success of these. Back then it was mostly gentlemen, so forgive me, ladies. It's a new world now, of course. But the massive success of these gentlemen was the mastermind concept, which is where people get together. In fact, this is what he said about the mastermind concept. It's the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. So he advocated, like in Chicago, there was a small group of men that would get together, I think twice or three times a year, no, once a quarter, and these were like Sears and Roebuck, the owner and head of Sears and Roebuck, the CEO of Roebuck, the biggest insurance company in the world, the biggest steel company in the world, Woolworth. These are big names back then. They'd get together, and they all attributed that mastermind group that they would get together, they attributed that to their success. Them getting together and talking about common ideologies, which is in our case growing business. We do mastermind groups too, and that's one thing I invite you guys to share in is the mastermind groups, because what we've covered is just the tip of the iceberg, of course. In the mastermind ideology, I'm going to be doing a conference call soon, every week in and week out, and it's going to be how to grow your business, how to grow it to where it's sustainable. It can put a cage around your customers so no one else can get to them. There's specific ways to do that, especially when you become the reigning expert in your business, like you are the person that knows more about nanny business, know more about children in that realm and how to care for them outside the realm of their parents than anyone else. So there's not even a question someone would go to you besides anyone else. Even in light of a lot cheaper, pricing over here, they still come to you. There's ways to do that, and we cover those type of things on this proactive conference call. It'll be a teleconference, and it'll be lessons, and then there'll be discussions, and we all get to feed off each other, and etc. There's a lot of benefits to it. Don't know when we're going to do the official first one now, but it's probably going to be in the next few weeks, 3 weeks to a month, I imagine. We're also going to be covering some of the same topics I cover on my radio show, that kind of thing. It'll typically going to be 7 o'clock. It's going to be last for about an hour and a half or so, and it's a 12-week cycle. So, and of course, you know, there's a cost related to it, but it's 100% refundable. And also, when you come on the first kickoff event, which, like I said, is probably going to be within 3 to 4 weeks, there's going to be a surprise gift that I'm going to send you. Jill just handed out some sheets for you. I think you probably have this flyer on there. If I had to guess, you've got that flyer. So that tells you a little bit more about it. And right in here is going to tell you like some of the stuff we go over as well. Which, by the way, one of the huge benefits of being involved in something like this, like a mastermind, there's a lot of benefits, but one of the biggest ones, I think, is the ability to not just bounce things off of people in different industries and get their ideas, but also the testing. You know, like let's say Stephen does a direct response marketing campaign to a particular segment of audience he wants to do. And we all know about it because we're in the same kind of mastermind group together, and we helped him with the language on it and said, you know, this kind of envelope instead of that kind of envelope. You know what I'm saying? We're all a part of it. Well, guess what? Next month or next week when he sends it out and he comes back to us with the results, we're going to learn from that. Wow, this worked, that didn't work, this worked, and you know, we make adjustments, and you know, it's a lot of fun, and it saves you an incredible amount of money and a lot of fuss, because you, instead of going out and doing it on your own, you get to actually commiserate with people and narrow it down. Let me see, that is a sheet also attached to right there, I think, although this is a different one, but if you're interested in joining us for the mastermind group, the teleconference call, this is the one you want to fill out. And this is, again, a sampling of what we're going to cover on the teleconference calls. How to use magnetic marketing to solve all your advertising, marketing, and sales problems once and for all. The right way to position yourself as a respected expert in your field. I can't overemphasize that. That's vitally important. Because what happens at that point, folks, is you go from, everybody here do like direct sales? You know, like you sell to people, etc.? Let me give you a major example of that. There's an inherent problem with doing cold calling, okay? And Khalid, you and I discussed this the other day, but there's nothing wrong with doing cold calling. In fact, I admire people that do it. I did it for many years myself, and it still has its validity. But cold calling, most people, if they don't want you there, that's a rough way to go, right? The example that we use is, again, I'll use one that Dan Kennedy has shared with me, and it's, Dan was in his, he does a lot of conference calls. We're talking about, by the way, doing cold calling. She just walked back in the door. Cold calling instead of like, you know, warm calling. But the example that he uses, he lived in Phoenix, Arizona at one point. He was home doing conference calls with his clients on the phone. He was doing a lot of consultation, things like that. And it was a hot day, real, you know, like it always is in Phoenix, right? And there was a knock on the door while he's on the call, banging kind of knock and he decided, you know, I'm on this call. Who could it possibly be? He must be a salesperson. I'm going to ignore it. So he went back to his call, and then the knocking increased with more violence, boom, 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 right? So he's still ignoring it, So he continued to ignore it until finally, you know, he figured if I ignore it sufficiently, they'll finally go away. So then they did. They finally went away, only to then jump over the tall fence in the backyard and go past the shrubs, around the bushes, and come knock on his back sliding glass door. And he's thinking, you know, bang, 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 with even more intensity. And so obviously at this point he's pretty irritated, but he's thinking, well, you know what, I'm a stubborn guy. I could ignore this sufficiently and they'll definitely go away. So he turns his back to him while he's still continuing his call. The guy was even banging even more. So who is this, by the way, doing this? It's obviously a pest of some sort, right? So he finally relents and, you know, goes over the door, swings the door open, only to find out that the guy was there because his entire backyard is on fire. Someone obviously had flicked a cigarette over the fence into his yard. It landed there. Everything but the pool, the water in the pool's on fire. And so here's this guy. He went from being an annoying pest to the most welcome guest to ever come to the Kennedy household, right? So that's what you want to do. You know, by the way, when the guy arrived, he also had the right message. You know, the right message. Remember we talked about that. His message happened to be, you know, call 911, stupid. I'll work the hose, you know, something like that. But that's what we try to set people up to do: is go from being an annoying guest to a welcome, to an annoying pest to a welcome guest. And that's where, like, sending out the emails and the letters and the discs and the CDs and setting the stage up before you ever get there. They already raised their hand in some way or another, you know, literally or figuratively. Yes, I want to learn more. And then when you finally get to them, they're already predisposed to buy from you. Doesn't that make sense? And that's the kind of stuff we go over in the conference calls as well. Like I said, the right way to position yourself as the expert, the difference between business to business and business to consumer selling. We're going to cover, like, the relationships between that message, market, media, so you'll immediately know when your advertising's working. You can track it all. No more waste in your advertising and your marketing. That's a big pet peeve of mine. I want to know exactly where every dime is going and how it's what kind of response levels I'm getting. And create an almost magical vehicle that you can see that you can get to the biggest and best buyers in your industry. How to get buyers to sit down with you before they realize they want to buy. That's preempting the competition. Does that interest anybody? Stephen, you got a fair amount of competition. Imagine if you could preempt them and they make the switch and never go back. Anyway, so you get all this for less than a cup of a Joe and a Danish. It's $14 a week if you're interested in doing it. Just see Jill back there, and or $49 a month, or the whole thing is $129. So that's it. And of course, you're going to be getting free bonuses, and we'll give you worksheets and all that stuff each and every time we do it. We'll email them out to you and that type of thing. So just see Jill in the back, and she'll take care of you if you're interested in doing the conference call. That's the sheet you'll fill out, and that's it. Let me see. I think that's. Oh yeah. Well, this is what you're going to look like before you join the Inner Circle conference call, right? And this is what you'll look like after you join the conference call. And you'll become a marketing master. That's the whole point. In 12 weeks, and hopefully, by the way, if you want to continue to stay on for the interaction and the connection to the people and etc., that's great. If you want to stay past 12 weeks, but typically you could at that point go off and just rock on your own. You're not going to need us anymore. Yes.
If you're unable to tune into class, would there be a recording?
Yes, we're going to do recordings. Absolutely. Great questions. You guys caught that? We will be recording all of them. Yep, and they'll be available for you, etc. There's a bunch of reasons why, etc. Let me see. Oh, also, included with the Inner Circle membership, I'm going to give you a copy. There's two different sections of this. One is that it's Dan Kennedy, one of my mentors, wrote this as recession-proof plan, an escape plan, so the recession doesn't actually touch you and your business anymore. And then there's a second one in there, which is there's the presentation itself, and then all the notes associated with it as well. You're going to get that free as well. So that's it. This is the last quote I always like to share, and that is, I'd rather work for 5 years doing what most others will not do, so that I can do for the rest of my life those things that other people can't do. You know, 5 years of real concentrated focus will really rock your world. And then finally, this quote I love because it's also at the bottom of your handout sheets, and that is, personal power is the ability to take action. Anybody know Anthony Robbins, by the way? You guys familiar with Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins is probably...
He's on the old network all the time.
Yep. He's probably the most prolific and well-known self-development person on the planet. He's counseled millions of, I think he's up to like 30 million people around the world. He's counseled presidents and prime ministers, and I mean, just on and on and on. So he's an amazing guy. He's a little over the top at times, though. But he does say personal power is the ability to take action.
That's what got him there.
What's that?
Maybe that's what got him where he is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's definitely up there, though, over the top. In fact, remember I mentioned Chet Holmes, one of my mentors earlier. He actually bought Chet's company before Chet died. So they did business breakthroughs, and it's the same kind of information that you'll be learning here a little later today, and on the conference calls. It's the same info that Anthony Robbins and Chet Holmes covers in their materials as well. Well, that's it, folks. We're done for this segment, and we'll be back here at 2 o'clock to cover the most common marketing mistakes that almost all entrepreneurs make. And then, of course, this evening at 6 o'clock, we're going to be covering the importance of search engine optimization and social media. So hopefully you guys can be here for that as well, because both of those are real powerful stuff. Any final questions? Cool. Well, let's go to lunch. Oh, Nate.
Yes, David. I just, like all the stuff that you have there is very inquisitive for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, can't wait for you to hear the next stuff. The marketing mistakes is real fun. Anybody that's in business is going to go, you're going to wince at times. Go, oh, I did that.
I did that.
I did that. But of course, we'll talk solutions. Well, as soon as we see them, you're going to immediately know what the solution is. Yes, Khalid.
I'm just curious. What is your favorite marketing campaign or favorite USP?
Boy, good question. He says, I'll repeat the question if you don't mind. So, what's my favorite marketing campaign or USP? My favorite are the ones that are effective and they get results, because to me that's the only thing that matters. And one of the hallmarks of what we talked about though in my world is that your opinion doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. Your mother's, your cousins, your uncles, your neighbors, your fellow business person, none of those opinions matters. The only opinion that matters when you're doing marketing and advertising is one that's accompanied by money. Right? Doesn't that make sense? It's got to work. So the results is number one. But really my favorite way of doing it is the multimedia approach. You're doing some radio, you're doing direct response marketing, you're combining it with email, you're pushing them through your website. All those combined, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, sometimes business increases by doing that so quickly and fast. Businesses oftentimes, and Steve and I have talked about this, oftentimes people come to us with a marketing problem, and very quickly they have a capacity problem. Like for example, if we did some of the things you're talking about, and you're already in the throes of doing it, you mentioned, and we put these things in place, right? And you go out and do the concierge, and you get the multimedia together and that type of thing, then all of a sudden you may have had a marketing problem before, but now all of a sudden it's a capacity issue. How am I going to get that number of bonded, babysitters and nannies to take care of all the customers I got coming in? Good problem to have, okay? Good problem to have. But I've had many clients go through it because they weren't prepared for it, but it is a challenge, but it's fun. But the ones that work is my answer. And the ones that work are those that, multimedia. It's often pretty quick. In fact, sometimes it gets so quick, and it happens with such resiliency and long-lasting, effect that you get moose bumps. I mean, it's cool. Not goosebumps, moose bumps. Those are bigger, more prolific. Any other questions, guys? Anything at all? Okay, we're going to step out for lunch, but I'm here. I'm around, so anything at all. Okay, guys, thanks. Appreciate it, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock for those of you that are coming back. Thanks. By the way, does anyone want any of these things? Like for your window or whatever? We've got several. Or they go on the inside of the glass pointing out. Anybody want them? You want one?